Floods have long been a source of terror for humans, evoking images of submerged cities, floating debris, and perilous escapes. However, as the residents of Fort Lauderdale, Florida discovered on April 12, 2023, the reality can be even more frightening. A sudden and severe storm hit the city, unleashing a deluge of water and causing chaos on the streets. What followed was a harrowing experience for its citizens, who found themselves trapped in their homes, stranded on the roads, and battling against the forces of nature. The storm that struck Fort Lauderdale, Florida on April 12, 2023 was far from normal. In a matter of hours, the city was inundated with over a third of its annual rainfall, causing a catastrophic flood situation to unfold. The National Weather Service's Miami office recorded a staggering 25.91 inches of rain at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport in the span of just 6 hours, a level never seen before in the city's history. Even the region's numerous tropical storms and hurricanes have never delivered this much rain. The flood was so intense that meteorologists called it a 1 in 1,000 year event, a rarity that underscores the severity of the storm. Several areas in Fort Lauderdale received 20 to 25 inches of rain, leaving the city's streets submerged in water and residents stranded in their homes. Fort Lauderdale's previous record for a single day's rainfall was set in 1979 at 14.59 inches. But this storm was far worse, with Warren Sturman, a Fort Lauderdale City Commissioner, stating that the flooding here is worse than anything we've seen in this area. Sturman has lived in the city since 1971 and has weathered his fair share of storms, but nothing could have prepared him for the devastation caused by this massive flood.
The entire parking lot is a river. I've never seen it before.
The neighboring cities of DANIA Beach and Hollywood also suffered with more than 17 and 18 inches of rainfall respectively, according to the National Weather Service. These figures are mind-boggling, and it's hard to fathom the impact such an unprecedented amount of rain had on residents and their homes. Although the reports are preliminary, it is clear that this was a storm of historic proportions that will go down in the books as one of the worst ever to hit the area. While Miami may have dodged a bullet in the recent onslaught, it still felt the sting of heavy rain earlier in the week, as its streets were inundated with water, revealing the city's susceptibility to flooding. Despite receiving between 3 to 5 inches of rain, a mere fraction of the downpour that struck its northern neighbor, Miami was not spared from extensive street flooding. Amanda Valentine, a resident who found herself trapped in her car as the floodwaters rose around her, described the terror of the situation.
I thought it was going to drown because I couldn't get my door open at first. Nothing was working. All the lights were going on in my car, so nothing was operating.
Despite calling for help, there seemed to be no way out. The flash flooding brought by the storm caused chaos and destruction across the region, leaving a trail of damaged homes, vehicles, and critical infrastructure in its wake. The relentless rain, which broke records and sat over the city for hours, turned the streets into rivers and left residents stranded in their homes, cut off from the outside world. Brackish water accumulated under the blazing sun only added to the horror, leaving residents to contend with the putrid smell and risk of disease. The impact of the flood was so severe that even the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, the 15th busiest airport in the country, was forced to close its doors.
Here, you see the water creeping up to those luggage carts.
Runways were submerged under an unfathomable volume of water, making it impossible for planes to take off or land. The airport remained closed the following day, and officials were uncertain when it would be safe to reopen. The neighborhoods that border the airport were hit the hardest, with water still covering parts of the runway and officials fearing significant damage to critical infrastructure. Fire and rescue crews from Broward County worked tirelessly to evacuate residents from their homes, using boats and high-water rescue vehicles to navigate the floodwaters. Warren Sturman, a Fort Lauderdale City Commissioner, predicts that at least hundreds and perhaps thousands of people will need temporary shelter due to the flood damage in neighborhoods like Edgewood and River Oaks. The damage caused by the storm is widespread, with downtown skyscrapers also experiencing flood damage. And can you imagine trying to sleep on a mattress that is floating on water?
I mean, it was lapping over the bed. Both of us were shaking from the cold.
For residents in Fort Lauderdale's Edgewood neighborhood, this became a terrifying reality as floodwaters surged into their homes, reaching depths of 2 to 4 feet. Even Avalon Conley, who is blind and had to move into his house just a week prior, wasn't spared.
Dramatic. Just scared to death.
Water started creeping into his home in the late afternoon, and within hours, it was sloshing through his living room and trailing into his bedroom. Conley tried his best to stop the water from entering, using towels to block the crest of the door, but it proved futile. When he woke up, the water had reached the bottom of his bed, and he couldn't help but worry about electrocution with the power still on. With no other options left, he called 911, and rescue teams arrived by boat to take him and over 100 others to a nearby shopping plaza. Indeed, Conley was just one of many who experienced the impact of the flood in Fort Lauderdale. According to the city commissioner, Warren Sturman, hundreds, if not thousands of people will require temporary shelter due to the flood. The Red Cross set up a shelter at Holiday Park, where residents shared their terrifying experiences of sleeping on waterlogged or floating mattresses. Many homes in the affected areas were one-story bungalows and trailers, leaving them particularly vulnerable to flooding. Fort Lauderdale has been pushed to its limits as residents grapple with the aftermath of a record-breaking storm. The city's mayor, Dean Trantalis, was stunned by the unprecedented levels of rainfall, which continued relentlessly for hours.
I've driven around the city, and there's not one area of the city that has not been impacted.
The flood was merciless, with over 900 calls for help to the fire department, including rescues. But in the face of such devastation, there were no reported deaths. Residents were forced to evacuate their homes and seek refuge in shelters, with around 600 people in need of assistance. The storm was relentless, with another round of rain falling the very next day, causing yet more flooding. It was a truly emotional time for everyone involved, as they watched helplessly as their homes and streets was consumed by the floodwaters. The flood and severe weather conditions created traffic chaos that lasted for hours. Local news channels captured footage of kayakers paddling through the streets of Hollywood, navigating past a stranded car, while in Fort Lauderdale, residents were seen wading through dark, waist-high floodwaters with their belongings. News outlets showed images of runways at the airport flooded with water, creating a surreal and distressing sight. Additional footage revealed the eerie sight of downtown streets filled with deserted cars stranded in the wake of the receding floodwaters. The scene looked like something straight out of a post-apocalyptic movie, as if the city had been suddenly abandoned in a rush. The unprecedented nature of the rainfall and flooding in Fort Lauderdale has led meteorologists and climate experts to explore the possible links to climate change. Alex Lamers, a meteorologist at the National Weather Service, described the situation as akin to putting a faucet right over Fort Lauderdale, turning it on and walking away. Research on other storms has demonstrated a clear link between climate change and the rainfall intensity. Meteorologists believe that the study of the Fort Lauderdale storm is likely to show a similar global warming influence, as rising temperatures and moisture in ocean air provide a beefed-up source of storm fuel. The rise in average temperatures across the globe has played a key role in intensifying storms like this one. As Kenneth Kunkel, a research professor at North Carolina State University, explains, the atmosphere can hold about 4% more moisture for every 1 degree Fahrenheit increase in temperature. The air off Florida's coast is capable of producing heavy downpours even under normal circumstances, but in this case, rainfall intensity was likely boosted by the fact that the ocean temperatures are 2 to 3 degrees above normal this time of year. While it is too early to definitively attribute this specific storm to climate change, experts warn that events like these will become increasingly common as the planet continues to warm. The need for urgent action in reducing harmful emissions, improving weather forecasting, and renewing our focus on water runoff management to help mitigate the effects of climate change has never been more apparent than it is today. Have you, a friend, or a loved one ever dealt with a disaster similar to this one? Let us know down in the comment section below. For more videos like this, like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay up to date on the latest global disaster news. Thanks for watching.